All right, it's 6:31, so we're gonna get started. So today we have a really interesting class planned. So going through the concept of freedom and the ability to exercise yourself as the best version of yourself, that involves having the freedom to do that. And one of the things that comes with freedom when you're not limited is curiosity. Now, when you are told not to be a certain way, that limitation can create the opposite of curiosity, conformism. And the same thing goes for animals. So when animals are restricted or their emotional state is too high, they actually lack the ability to be curious. So think about it like this. It's kind of like pollution or white noise. So if somebody's talking to you really, really loudly and they're making a lot of noise and you're trying to hear something else, but there's so much noise, you can't actually hear it, that's the equivalent of having too much emotional intensity. So for us people, okay, if you get caught up on emotions, that's your noise. So you're no longer free, you're no longer limitless. Now you're limited because of that reaction that you have, other functions that you have, like curiosity, go down. So curiosity is a sign that you're healthy. A person that's healthy, an animal that's healthy, will be curious. Now, curious is not intense. So Avery came on the weekend and she took our class on curiosity. So she's going to help us all understand a little bit of what curiosity means. So we're going to get started right now. And I just want her to first explain to you the definition of curiosity. Hi, Rosalie. All right, Avery, go for it. What is curiosity?
Okay, definition of curiosity: a strong desire to know or learn something. Right? Nice.
Okay, so now that sounds awesome, but how do we create curiosity? Because you're not, like, a baby is naturally curious, but have you ever seen, like, for example, people walking down the street with their head down and they're not looking anywhere? They're just like kind of like walking like that. Or like animals that are just so afraid of something that even the nicest thing that happens, they're just reacting. They're not actually curious. So how do we create curiosity? How do we help a being be curious?
Okay, we create curiosity by adding value, variety, and intensity.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at value. What does value mean? So if a child comes and tell you why something, and you say, well, it doesn't matter why, I'm talking to somebody. Okay, and then the other time, another time, the kid asks, but why? And you shut them down again. Hey, excuse me, I'm busy, I'll tell you later. And you don't explain it. What happens is at the end of the day, they're gonna stop asking why. You understand? Like, that was no longer allowed. There was not a time that you gave them to express their curiosity. So the value means that when an animal expresses curiosity, whether it's a person or a dog or a cat or whatever it is, that they actually, something is given to them to create that value. So being curious is paid. So that means they're going to want to do it more often, right? Now let's talk about the next part of curiosity, variety. So what does variety mean? So if you guys always eat rice, every single time you eat rice, how challenged are you? Not very challenged. It's like, it's the same thing over and over again. It's like a rotting root rot. What? Oh my gosh, that's not coming out right. It's like when you do the same thing over and over again at your job and you get really bored and because there's nothing new happening. So then you lose your curiosity and then you feel trapped. But in reality, you trap yourself. So it's the same thing with the dog. Oh, thank you, Elisa. In a rut. That's what I was looking for. So what happens is you teach something to the dog and you practice that over and over again, and the dog gets really, really good at it. It gets really good at it, but you keep practicing over and over again, the same thing over and over again, and the dog is good at it, and then they get bored. And then they, okay? So variety is key. And the last one is intensity. But Avery, talk about what kind of intensity are we looking at?
What kind of intensity? Okay, so like not necessarily SUD levels up, more just like an intensity, like a desire to know or like desire to perform something.
Exactly. So for example, if you take out the garbage at home and you come back and everybody's like, whoa, you were amazing, thank you so much for taking up the garbage, and you get that from like your friend, and then your mom tells you the same thing, and then your husband tells you the same thing, and then your kids tell you the same thing, you just got so much edification from 5 people that you are like, wow, taking the garbage pays, I want to do that more often, right? So it's very obvious you're creating an intensity in desire. So it's not an intensity of emotion, it's intensity of desire. Okay, so now the next thing, so again, just for anybody who arrived a little bit late, we're talking about the meaning of becoming curious and how curiosity can be used to balance a system. The system being your physical body as a human being, or your dog, their physical well-being as well, and their mental well-being. So curiosity is a huge tool that you can use. And so Avery talked about the definition of curiosity. Avery, you want to repeat it one more time?
Yes, a strong desire to know or learn something.
Perfect. And then she talked about how we get curiosity, which is how?
Adding variety, intensity, and value.
That's right. So that's what we want. We want to create variety, different things, different exercises, different games, intensity in the desire of them to do it or ourselves to do it, and value in how they get paid for it. Okay, so now we're going to go over a few games that are going to actually help you create curiosity. Okay, everybody go for it.
Okay, game number 1, event rewards. So rather than just a regular reward, like a treat, boring, that's it, an event reward would be adding an experience or an interaction. So like tossing the treat, maybe running a little bit, tossing the treat, like little tornado. That's what I can think of. For example.
Yeah, here's another example. You're walking down the street with your dog, and your dog hears a loud bang outside. So they look at the bang, and all of a sudden they look at you. If you want to create an event reward, you go, yes, and then run as fast as you can around a tree. So your dog is like, oh my God, and they're chasing you. And that was an event reward. So that you created a moment of an interaction with your dog that had more value than just giving a dog a treat. Now, you don't have to run. You can literally plop on the ground and go, oh my gosh, and pet your dog, and but it's more than just giving a treat. It's an actual moment of an experience. Everybody good with that? So game 1 for curiosity equals create event rewards, not just rewards. So if you work with me, you have heard me say, take your hand out of your pocket. Take your hand out of your pocket. Because I don't want the dog to be dependent on food. I want the dog to be dependent on your relationship with them. So that's why I don't want to bribe. I want to reward. So event rewards versus just rewards. Okay. All right. Next.
Okay. Next, we have behavior chains. So that would be like performing a series of behaviors. Generally, like you'd start with a difficult one and it would only get easier. And then the longer the chain, the greater the reward at the end. So does that like build some intensity?
Mm-hmm. So the behavior chain, like Avery said, is a series of behaviors in a row. So just like she said, you're going to start with the hardest behavior first and get easier. And you're also going to start, and you're going to also teach your dog that the harder they have to work and the longer they have to work for you, the higher the reward is going to be. So the value of the reward is going to be a lot higher. So I'll give you an example of how Avery did it. Avery, you want to describe what we did?
Yeah, so Maui in particular, he doesn't like lying down. Like that's his most difficult behavior. So we'd start with a down and then maybe like a sit and then a stand. And then after that, he gets a reward or event reward. But the longer the chain, the greater the reward.
So what kind of treat did you give Maui when he did that?
Toss a treat, didn't I?
No, but what kind of treat?
Event, high value. The longer the chain, high value treat. Yes.
So we use like a piece of chicken or a hot dog.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I ask him for a sit, I give him a kibble.
Yes.
Right. So if I'm asking for a chain of events, and this is the thing, a lot of us will grab a lot of different treats because we're wealthy, because we live in a first world country. So we're actually capable of going to the store and buying treats. But the challenge is that we're not using the treats effectively, because we may give the treat, whatever treat we grab from our hand, whenever we want to give the treat, but the dog doesn't have any clue of why they got a high value treat. So when you actually start understanding how to use high value, you go from having what's called a party trick that the dog will only do whenever they want to do it, to a behavior that the dog will choose to do in the outside world, whether you ask them to do it or not. So like equivalent saying, okay, watch me, and your dog can only look at you when you're in your house, or being outside the street, there's a car crash and your dog is looking at you and they didn't even care about it. So that's the difference between an applied behavior that the dog is choosing to do and a party trick. Okay, so in order to create that, you can use food effectively, which means that when you're asking for something harder in a behavior chain, you're gonna pay with a high value. But if you ask for something easy, you're only gonna give a kibble. You're not gonna give anything else other than that. And now that has intelligence. 100%, Mike, it can definitely be a jackpot. 100%. So a high value could be a jackpot. Yes. Mm-hmm. So jackpot is when we give, instead of giving one treat, we say jackpot, treat, 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 treat. And the dog is very aware that they got several treats for the performance they had, for the behavior they did. Okay. So that is that game. So now for behavior chains, sometimes one of the things that you can do is make a list. And what I would recommend is making a list of everything your dog likes to do when you ask them to do it. Like, for example, a sit, a tug of war, like get it, or like chasing a treat on the ground, or like a down, or a side, or a stand, like everything your dog knows, or a touch. So I make a list of all the behaviors I think my dog knows. Now, sometimes you think your dog knows something, but they may not necessarily know it. They may only know it if you're bribing. So that doesn't count. It has to be a behavior that your dog can do with a sound, the sound of your voice, and a hand signal, or vice versa. So that will be a behavior your dog knows. It's like you saying you know the word, let's say the word occult. And I ask you what it means, and you're like, oh, well, I know what it means. Well, dark. That's not what occult means. You know what I mean? So knowing something means that you know it. You can give an explanation, you can talk about it, you can give examples. That means you know something. Okay, so now we know behavior chains. You can use that list of the behaviors that your dog knows, and you can rate them. And you can rate them from like 1 being the least favorite of your dog, like Maui the down, and 10 being the most favorite, like a shake or a stand. So Maui loves a stand. He's like, boom, he like gets up, right? So then we did down, sit, stand. And so we went from hard to easy. So that's how I would do my behavior chain to start with. Now, your behavior chain doesn't have to have more than 2 commands. It could be just 2 push-ups, sit to down, down to sit. Okay, push-ups. And a behavior change can start with 1 set of push-ups, sit down, down to sit, and then 4, sit down, down to sit, sit down, down to sit. And that's a behavior change. So it doesn't have to be super complicated. Now it can also be touch middle, right? And it could also be like that. Like, so it can be anything really, but behavior change, like if you have a dog that's really smart, like Anitra, your dog, okay, there shouldn't be a reason why you're ever rewarding for a single command anymore. Like your dog is so advanced from that. So maybe the only time I would reward for a single command is if I put him in a situation where there's dogs, people, water, dogs, deer, and everything is together. Then I may reward for a set, like with a high value reward. Because like all the distractions are there in once. Anitra, go for it.
The event reward, lately, when I'm out with him, I've been doing Mark. And
Oh, perfect.
He finds that as a game. So
Yeah.
he really enjoys doing it. So the other day when I was walking him, he saw a squirrel in a tree, which really kind of got him. And there was a big rock nearby. And I just said, Mark, and he got on it. And Mark is easy for him. So I did watch.
Nice.
I went to the end of the leash and walked around the rock, and he kept kind of looking at the squirrel and looking at me. And, and then I got him off and gave him a reward.
That's great. So for you, Mark
Okay.
is a reward on its own because he likes to do it. So like you can use Mark as a reward instead of a treat.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The behavior was
Like the
Mark-
behavior.
walk, and then I did hypnotism, and then I walked around.
Nice, very nice. But I'm saying Mark is such a favorite thing of Quattro that
Yeah.
let's say Quattro does a watch command to you, or he looks at you when he saw the squirrel. That you can say yes, and instead of giving a treat, you can say go Mark, and that will be the reward. That behavior was a reward because he likes it so much.
Okay. Thank you.
You understand? So that you can use it as a reward. Anything your dog really likes, like some of my dogs absolutely like between. Some of my dogs love touch. So I can actually use that as a reward itself. Like I'm not even with a treat, just the command is a reward. It makes them feel good. Okay, think about this. Okay, a reward could be somebody giving you money. Okay, but a reward can be somebody giving you a kiss. So it really depends on what you value more. So that's something to consider. Different people and different dogs have different types of value. So like if you learn your dog, if you know somebody intimately, you know what to buy them as gifts. You know what to give them. You don't have to buy them anything. You know what to give them as gifts. If you don't know anybody, if you don't know somebody, it's harder. Right? So that's where becoming intimate with your dog means that you start to understand how to reward them, not always with food, but with an event that you give. Right? Okay, so that's game 2, behavior change. So let's go back to a little bit of a reset here. So today we're talking about curiosity, because curiosity is the first thing that disappears when somebody's stressed out or anxious or high intensity in emotional states. It goes away. You can't be curious when you're stuck in your mind. Okay, so there are ways to create curiosity, and the way to create curiosity is by creating variety, intensity of desire, and
Value.
and value. Perfect. Okay, and we have looked at 2 games so far. The first game was, Avery?
Event rewards.
Perfect. And the second game was?
Behavior change.
Behavior change. All right, that brings us to the third game. Go for it, Avery.
The prize, the eyes on the prize.
That's right.
So this builds intensity, right?
Mhm.
So your dog would be on the bed because you need a boundary, right? So I have a question. What is
Yeah.
the difference between a boundary and a layer?
And a what, sorry?
The layer.
The layer. Oh, boundary and a layer. Okay, a layer is kind of like a cake. You
Yeah.
have like the whipping cream and the dough and everything. So boundary is not a layer. Boundary is a place. It's a place where the dog can stay there. Now I can add layers to the boundary. Like for example, I can run around like a maniac and the dog stays on the bed, and that's some kind of difficulty. So that's one layer on the boundary exercise.
Right. I think I was confused. I thought that the boundary and then you'd add, never mind. It has been sorted. Anywho,
Yeah. But
understood.
like just before that, just to make it clear, because that's actually a really valid question. Layers are usually built through the D's: distance, duration, distractions, and difficulty, right? And that builds layers. Now, according to the exercise is what layers you can use first, right? So for example, if I'm working on a boundary, the duration will be single best layer to build at the beginning because it's easy. And all you're doing is like giving the dog value treats for the dog staying on the boundary, right? And then after that will be distance. And after that will be distractions. And I put, hey guys, I put the videos up of the boundary of the mark training and stuff. They just took a while to upload because Facebook had blocked me from putting videos up, but we sorted it all out. It just took a little bit of time. I apologize for that, but they're up already. And there's this little poodle who's just brilliant, but he had a lot of fear. So it took a few trials to get them on the bed. So it's a perfect example of how to support a doggy through fun. And obviously, Maddie is one of our trainers. She was working with the poodle, and there's always things that we all can improve, but who cannot improve at any one time? Just the way life is, right? Okay, so let's look at the next, continue with that, Avery. So we're on a boundary.
Yeah, I got confused because I thought that the different levels of the game were called boundaries, but the bed is called the boundary.
That's
Okay.
right.
So your dog is standing or on the bed or sitting on the bed, which is the boundary. And then you'd have a treat in your hand and you kind of get your dog's attention with the treat. And then you kind of bring it away and hold it still so they're looking at it. And then once they look at it and close their mouth and they're staring at it, then you drop it and then free, right? And they go.
So
Yeah.
the purpose, what's the intention with the eyes on the prize game?
Building intensity.
Of desire, but what is the intention on that game? You remember?
Oh, my dog looked at the prize, continues to look at it, regardless of the distractions.
Perfect.
You free them.
Until I free them. And the mouth has to be closed.
Yes, the mouth has to be closed.
So now eyes on the prize allows your dog to have a moment of intensity where they're allowed to be intense and they're allowed to exercise their predatory intensity because that's what they're doing, okay, in a controlled environment. So it builds desire, but there's requirements. So like we said, is that you look at the prize, you close your mouth and you stare at it no matter where the prize is, and you hold that stare on that prize until I tell you free, and then you can go get it. All right, so let's review.
Prize, and then when they're staring at it with their mouth closed, then free.
And then you drop it, and then you say free.
Would you say prize when you're holding it or after you drop it? Or
Well,
while-
you only say prize after you've been dropping a few,
Okay.
and they're looking at it, close their mouth, and you say free a few times, and now you know the dog looks at the treat, and then you can say prize. But the challenge is a lot of dogs will stare at you instead, right? So you want to get the dog looking at the treat, and then you put it to the side, like right in front of their bed. And then once they're looking at the treat like this, you drop it, they follow it, they look at it with their mouth closed, and say free, and then they go get it. Okay? And then after that, you do it again and again and again. And once you know they got it, every time you do that, they will look at it every single time until you say free, then you say prize right as you're dropping it. So you go like this, prize, and then they look at it and you say free. And now you're adding the name of the command, prize. Now, when do you use this behavior? You use this behavior if your dog has predatory problems, like when your dog really wants to hunt follow scents, catch things, toys, things like that. You can also use it when you want your dog to be in a movie, on photos, things like that, because dogs that can focus on a particular point look really good on camera. Like really, really good. If you have a good looking dog and one of your dreams is to take radiant photos, this is a mandatory command. Price, because they'll stand perfectly perfect. And there's levels to this exercise, right? But we're just talking about the basic level. Mike, you have a question?
Yes, and I think it's kind of two of them. One was the question about rewarding duration, which also is about this. Like when you're rewarding duration, do you progressively, so if Vision is down on her bed and a rewarding duration, do I first wait like 30 seconds and give her a treat and say free, and then the next time go 45 seconds? Or am I giving a treat for as intermittently while she's holding that bed stay?
Well, you would do, just to answer that quickly, you will do 2 seconds reward, 10 seconds reward, 20 seconds reward, 4 seconds reward, 35 seconds reward, 2 seconds reward, a minute and a half reward, and you never free the dog.
Mhm.
There was no free.
Okay.
That was just a behavior that you continue to add duration for, and then once you did that, let's say 7 times or so, and the dog did great, then you say free. And that exercise has finished, and then you can do it again if you want to, but it's one set. Okay, and you never ever want to start with a high duration.
Oh,
You
sure.
always start with a low duration, then high, then low, then medium, then high, medium, then low, then high, medium, then low, then high, medium, and it's absolutely 100% unpredictable. Why do we want it to be unpredictable? What does that do? Starts with a V.
Variety?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
Uh,
Creates more value.
So with this, the prize game, so can you describe, you or Avery describe the like starting out, like if I'm starting this tomorrow with Vision, how would it look like?
We already have, but we'll do it again. Avery,
Yeah.
go for it.
Okay, bed. Dog gets on the bed. And then
Yes.
yes, step 1. And then you'll have the treat in your hand. And then if they need a little bit of help, like figuring out, make it a little exciting, I needed to kind of move my hand, like get my prey drive going a little bit to get his focus on my hand with the treat. And then hold it up here so that, they're like staring at it from where they are on the bed, and you're not holding it over the bed. It's like over here. And then once they're staring at it and their mouth is closed and they're really fixated, then free. And then you don't add the word prize until they're like guaranteed.
So basically you just drop it. The dog continues to look at it as it falls. And as soon as they look at it, free. And there's no duration, right? Like, because they're not ready for duration. I don't need them to stare at the treat because they can't. If you do any amount of duration, they'll go, oh, can I have it? And they'll look at you instead.
So if while I'm doing this, because Vision's very intense on her treats and very intent, like she's got a high degree of focus on what she wants. If she lunges towards that, that's
Oops.
I wouldn't
Bed.
oops bed and
bed.
restart.
Yep.
Okay.
And don't touch the treat.
When I was doing it with Takara, I was holding her collar to start.
And that was really good because that was building frustration and intensity of desire. So that was really amazing to do, right? Okay, here's another thing just quickly about this prize game. Do you guys think that it's ever possible to have 0 intensity in life? I would say you will have to be like a monk or something. And I don't even think that's possible. I think it's very hard. I think that there's going to be moments of intensity no matter who you are or what you experience. But there's a huge difference when you've been trained to do that, use that intensity appropriately. And I'll give you an example, and we talked about this before. If you're a soldier and you first start training for war, okay, everything is hard. And they train you by yelling at you and basically mistreating you and putting you under pressure, and you're crying and you want to quit, and it's horrible. After 4 years of that, you're in the war, things happen in front of you, and you're totally calm and collected. That is learning under pressure, learning to use intensity when it's necessary. Okay, like what would happen if you have a car accident and you're nervous and you're like, oh my God, I had a car accident. And then the police officer comes and he says, oh my God, it's pretty bad. Now you guys are all gonna freak out. You see what I mean? There is times to be intense and there's times to be calm. So because in nature, you will have moments of intensity, by teaching eyes on the prize, you're teaching your dog how to hold on to being calm even when things are intense. So you're giving your dog a gift. It's like being trained as a soldier. So the reason why you have behavior challenges with your dog is because there's emotional intensity and you can't handle it because you haven't taught your dog how to do it. You actually don't, the dog doesn't have knowledge about it. The dog is not being mischievous, is not trying to hurt you, is not trying to disobey you, is not trying to be a nightmare. It has nothing to do with you. It's not personal. It's just the dog is not educated. There is not enough value for the dog to offer up a different behavior. It takes time to give value. It takes time to build an intimate relationship with somebody. And when you are intimate with your dog reads your mind. Your dog walks beside you and you look at your dog and you're like, wow, you're so perfect. You're amazing. It takes time. A lot of effort.
I have a quick question
Sure,
about
Sheila.
that. So Roxy will take treats from Tyson, like in the house, like for the most part, like if he offers them, like she'll usually take it very nervously still, but she will. But when he walks her, she doesn't want anything to do with the treats. So I don't know how he could add that value unless it's just time, right? Like, I don't know.
Well,
She doesn't want to take it from him at all.
okay, so you have to use a little bit of bribery. I'm just gonna mute. Hold on, guys. There's a couple of, I can't hear everybody. I'm just gonna mute. We have an echo. Oh, it's gone. All right, so here. So if you want to actually help her move over that, you have to have a really higher value. So I had a dog today I was working with. It was a border collie and it was terrified, tail right between the legs. And then guess what? I had this morning cooked for a couple of people sausages, but actually Bavarian sausages that were amazing. And I'm like, oh, I know exactly what this dog needs. And I went to get one and the dog is like, whoa, what's going on? Right? So you just have to be creative with the value, the stinky stuff. I mean, when we started working with your pooch, we started with tripe. It was so gross. So that's what you have to do. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Now, if you don't want to use a higher value, there's an alternative: time. But you have to be patient. He has to walk her more, experience more time. And then you have to be smart because let's say you're walking down the road and you notice somebody pedal in a post. You can say, Roxy, look, sniff. And Roxy's like, I'm afraid of you, but there's pee. I'm afraid of you, but, and then she'll sniff. And then you just want a point. You're like, right? So you have to use your environment as well as rewards. So that will work really well. But let's go back a little bit about this prize, eyes on the prize. Because Sheila, if you practice that with Roxy, all of these behaviors are building that repertoire for her, kind of like her menu. And one day she'll do it with other people too. It's just walking her off that state, that mind state. Okay, so eyes on the prize means you're allowed to be intense, and at the right time, and you can control it. So it's like, I'm gonna show you the treat, and then you're gonna look at it, close your mouth. I'm gonna drop it, you're gonna follow it, and when you look at it, I'm gonna say free. And then when you do that, and you can add a little bit of duration, like a second before you say free, and then as 2 seconds, and then 3 seconds before you say free, then you can add the word prize as you're dropping the treat. Prize.
And you're talking about it being like on a high bed, right? Like you're not talking about the dog bed. You're talking about like on a couch or a bed, like up high. That the dog is up on up high when they're watching the treat, right?
It could be on a flat bed on the ground.
Okay.
In any kind of bed, any kind of boundary. It could be a couch. Like
Yeah.
Avery, we were doing it with Takara on a sidewalk, like up on a little, it was kind of like a planter. Yeah, like a little planter box. So we put her up high, and then we tossed it. So it's really anything. It could be a mark, but the dog has to have a very good understanding of staying on it, right? Because they can't get off of it until you say free. You understand? So that's what we want to do. We want to do that. Now, here's the thing, you guys. We could very easily put a video and explain to you how it's done. But then how do we know you actually learn anything? That's really easy. How many videos have you watched in YouTube of things? And how many of those things have you actually done? See, being challenged means that you actually try and send us your video, and then we can give you feedback. There's a reason why we don't show you everything, because like you can give, you can, there's this famous saying, you can give somebody a fish and you can teach them how to fish. It doesn't matter how you look at it. Teaching how to fish is more productive because now you're independent. You're able to learn for yourself, think for yourself, be creative, try things, and doesn't matter how many times you fail. You know how many times I failed? Like a lot. Like today I was working with a dog and working on my falling goodies. And when you have a lot of goodies, you put them all here and then you can toss them with your thumb through these fingers. Okay, I kept tossing them all over the place, not aiming at the dog at all. Okay, and I could blame it on the cold, but really I just need more practice. Okay, that's all. So it's we all improve. We just have to try. We just have to do it. Just try it, send us a video, and we'll go, oh, you can improve here, you can improve there. All right? Okay, so that is the game of Avery.
Eyes on the prize.
Eyes on the prize, level 1. Okay, that's it. What's the next game, Avery?
Next game is the bowl sprint. So,
I love that one.
yes,
That's
you have 2 bowls on opposite ends of the room, and level 1, the bowls would be empty, and you just be walking with your dog, sort of. You don't have to be walking straight back and forth, but like sort of meandering back and forth and just waiting for your dog to look at you without any command, like to choose to look at you. And then as soon as your dog looks at you, you say yes, and you sprint to a bowl and you put a treat.
Yes. Now, Avery, is the dog on leash or off leash?
On leash.
Okay, perfect. So you guys understand? So you are doing what's called a meandering walk. Your dog is on a leash. You have no real direction. You're kind of walking randomly everywhere. And the only requirement is a certain pace. Okay, you can't be slow and stop and then keep walking. So you actually have to walk with a pace. Right? So I'm walking with a pace. The second my dog looks at me, yes, and you spring to that bowl and toss a treat on the bowl, and then your dog eats it. Got it? Now, why is this game important? Okay, we're talking about curiosity. And what is more, it is an incredible ability to guide your dog with a speed. You can create so much curiosity. So let's say that you see a dog and you don't feel like you want to deal with that, and your dog has dog issues, and all of a sudden your dog looks at you, you say yes, and you start running away, and your dog is like, yeah, and then following you, and then you go, sniff here, and they go. It's the exact same game. You're teaching the dog that if they look at you, party time comes on. That they never know what's gonna happen. So we have this constant theme going on throughout all our classes. If you focus on me and stay close to me, you get things that are valuable. So what happens is your dog starts choosing to look at you and spend time with you, near you, more and more and more and more, because he pays more than just following a scent. He pays more than like looking at a dog. He pays more than being afraid of a person, right? And the other thing that he does is if you're actually consistent, it becomes a lifestyle for your dog. It's a choice that they make. They don't need any prompts. And they're constantly focusing on you. So that's where kind of like where we want to get to, right? Okay, so in this game, you're sprinting from one to a second ball. There's 2 balls. All the way to the end, you're meandering, walking, dog looks at you. Yes, you run to one of the balls. I always choose to run to the farthest one. So it's more fun. Right? And you can also do it outside. Once the dog learns how to do it, you can do it outside. And you can bring collapsible balls. So you can put them on your backpack. And then you can go and play at a park where there's distractions, or where your dog always likes to chase the squirrels and things. And then you can practice doing this game. Okay, so that's level 1. Level 2, Avery, of this game.
Level 2 is that the food is already in the bowl. So level 1, you would have to run to the bowl and then put the treat in the bowl for your dog. But then level 2, there's already a treat in each bowl. Is that the only difference?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so now you don't have to put one in there. Now there's like, you're going to run and the dog is going to get it. Right?
Right.
Now, here is something cool. If you, let's say that I'm working at a park where my dog always wants to chase a squirrel, always. And I know the squirrel is usually on the tree on the right, on the left. Okay, I can put one of my balls near that tree and put a lower value treat. And I can go to the other side away from that tree and put my other ball and put a high value treat. So when I walk in my dog, if my dog looks at me and I walk away from the tree, they get the high value. I just taught my dog never to walk towards that tree. Don't choose the squirrel tree. Choose running away because you get higher value treats. That's when you can start adding a little bit of intelligence to your training. But it takes time to do that, so don't feel forced to do something like that. I'm just giving you an example of how you create more value, right? Now, Jen, you have a question?
Unmute. Hi, Valley.
Hello.
Hello. I have a question about treats and high value treats. Harvest, we have been, since we got her, been dealing with severe allergies. We're finally coming out of the process that we've been in, and she's starting to heal. But one of the trickiest things that I've had in kind of playing some of these games is the around the treats, because we have to be so careful of what we give her. And really, she's only supposed to eat raw food. So I've had to use like party time, like, yeah, like, you know, just and pet her and be excited as my go-to as opposed to treats. But now we're starting to explore introducing new foods to her. So I was just curious, you know, if examples of different, in that sort of case, what would you consider a high value?
When I have a dog that has allergies that I really don't want to mess with their system and treats at all, I always teach tug of war. And my value will always be an amazing game of tug. where I'm literally lifting the dog in the air with the toy and like blah, and I build it up to become a really high value. You don't have to use treats, but you do have to use items that never are given to her unless you're interacting with her and you're actually playing with them. Like examples is like, for example, the sheep talk toy that I use, or the raccoon one, right? Those are so amazing because they're actually sheep skin and the dog is so attracted to it. And I'm yet to find a dog that doesn't get excited about that. And that toy is carried with me on the walks and is only used when I want to create an event reward. But I do spend some time at home charging that and building that toy and the excitement to that toy. And basically for a certain amount of time, all I do is build excitement around this particular item. And that's how I will deal with it. I don't know, if I had a dog with sensitivity in their bellies, I would rather not use a lot of food. I would rather take my time to find it. Now, if a dog eats raw food, usually, yes, Mike, absolutely. If my dog usually will be okay with raw food, usually they're okay with like cooked chicken or turkey, cooked, usually. But you have to experiment with it. And honestly, one of my go-to rewards, especially when I'm working with very young puppies, I don't want to give them treats that you buy at the pet store. I just cook chicken. Like you'll see, like we're going to have a litter in a little bit and we'll have puppies here. So if anybody wants to volunteer and actually like learn how to work with pups from very beginning, we will use only that food, only the cooked chicken. Anitra, aggression is only when you allow a dog to redirect onto you. So with actually tug of war is the opposite. You're allowing the dog to express a predatory drive in a controlled way. So it's actually a really good game. I love it. I love it with a capital L. Now there's rules to the game. There is definitely rules. Oh, hello there. Okay. So there's rules to the game. So you definitely have to work on that. But yeah, sorry, Ryu, I'm trying to teach. Okay, yeah. So but it doesn't cause aggression. It's very much the opposite. Aggression is caused by a person that is not stable. And also when we reward a lot of intense behaviors, like if we're giving affection, a movement and things when the dog is intense emotionally. And I'm not talking about a desire, I'm talking about actually being emotionally intense. And if you pull them back or something like that, that builds into reactivity and aggression later on. So that takes time to build up. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the game, Avery.
Bull sprint.
Okay. Ball sprint. And level 1 is no treat on the ball. And level 2 is treat on the ball. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next game. Last one.
Okay. Falling goodies. So we didn't actually get very far with that. We were only just like the dog is sitting down or standing up and you've got the treats and you're just like a little handful of treats just above the dog's nose so they can catch it when you use your thumb to push one off so that you're
so just to go over that behavior per se is I have my kibbles, they're on this hand, see, they're all in there. Can you see? Around there. Okay, so they're right there. So I put them on my hand, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them there, and then I'm gonna open that finger so they fall off. So I wanna have that finger open, and then I toss them between that finger, and I get good at tossing them all one at a time, like this, pushing them all in through that finger right there. Okay, so you get good at accommodating your treats and just pushing them out like that. Okay, but you have to practice. Now, obviously, try bigger treats than smaller ones. And then for you, Jen, you can do it with your raw food. You can grab your little, so what I do when I'm feeding with raw is I just cut it into little squares. Like I don't do it thawed. I actually leave it a little bit frozen so I can cut it. And it's super satisfying for the dog. And I can guarantee you that one of the challenges of Harvest is focus. Usually the type of dog you have, the Portuguese water dogs, lack focus. And what I mean, I'm sorry, I apologize. They don't like focus. They have an amazing focus, just not on you. They focus on everything else. Okay. So that's usually one of the things that happens. So this exercise, you have the dog beside you and you're like this and you start tossing things from your hand and they learn to look up and like, where's it coming from? Ham. And dogs are opportunistic. And so what happens is and they're going to fall off the ground all the time and your dog is going to miss them all the time. And then you're going to grab them from the ground and that's fine. But eventually they'll learn to catch one. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can catch it before it falls. And then they'll get better and better at it, right? But it takes time. You also have to get used to the handling. But you can also do this one, but it's just not as fast. Yeah, are we good with that? And that's just level 1 is beside you. Dog is not moving. Just beside you. Blip, 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 or blip, blip, blip. Right? All right, so let's do a review. Curiosity is the sign of stability. Anybody who is like curious means they have enough emotional stability to be able to exercise curiosity. Okay, every definition of curiosity again.
The desire to know or learn something.
Perfect. A desire to know or learn something. Okay, if you're stressed out, if you're anxious, if your salt levels are high, you don't want to learn. Okay, I mean, think about when your dog has been really intense. You can say their name, you can wave a stick in front of them and they don't care. Okay, they're not curious. So we create curiosity through, Avery?
Adding variety, intensity, and value.
Perfect. And we have a few games that we talked about for that. Game 1, Avery.
Event rewards.
Game 2.
Behavior chains.
Game 3.
Eyes on the prize.
Game 4.
Goal sprint.
And game 5.
And the falling goodies.
Okay, so we have 5 different games that you can practice. Now, Anitra asked a good question. Where do I send my videos to if you want feedback? You can put them on the Facebook page. You know, make your videos nice and short. Don't do 10-minute videos because they won't upload. So even if you do a few reps, you can just cut it on your phone after and then put them up and we'll tell you feedback. And you know what? If you're afraid of being criticized, get over it. That's how we grow. Okay, it's okay. We're in a safe place. Nobody cares that your pants don't match. Nobody cares. Okay, Anitra?
I noticed with my videos that I talk a hell of a lot. I talk to Quattro a lot, like full on sentences and stuff. I mean, so it was enlightening for me because I really didn't realize how much I talked to him.
And you know,
So-
that's really a sign of maturity to able to look at yourself and not come from a place of judgment. Like you're not less of a person because you talk too much to your dog. It's just an observation. It's like, I can improve that. I can actually use my tone of voice as a higher value instead of talking all the time. I can use it only when he does amazingly, right? So that's an observation. And that's what happens usually when you film yourself. You grow so much. And that's why we want to encourage everybody to do that, right? And it's okay. It's okay. Look, life is hard as it is. We already talked about this. So when you have a team to walk life with, it's so much more valuable. Okay, like Alisa, for example, I walk life with Alisa. I seen things with her. She shared things with me. And I grown so much from watching her life and watching what she's gone through. It's been an amazing process, right? And like, we can make mistakes ourselves or we can learn from others. And that's way much better. That's so much better than doing it ourselves. Although sometimes we're thick-headed. So if you have problems with learning and you want to improve yourself, send me a message. I'll help you because we have tools for that, like amazing tools. And next week we have a guest speaker. So if you guys wanna like have some amazing insights into learning and things like that, stay tuned for next week because we have an amazing guest coming up on the call. So that's gonna be really awesome for everybody. Does anybody, yeah, Mike?
For these games, like before when we were talking about training in about 3 to 5 minutes for frequency, like for a duration for doing a skill. For these types of games, would you still adhere to that? And also, would you find that it would be better to play one game for a week and then try another game, or just completely have the variety of each day play a different game?
You know what? Those are excellent questions. Well done. I would say the duration of the game should be the shorter as possible. I will also say that depending on your personality, you can choose to either just play one game and master that one game or actually do them all. Now, I get bored very easily. So I particularly will do one game for 2 minutes, like literally 2 minutes. I'll do the ball sprint, boom, 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 with my dog, and then put him away. Okay, and then come back later during the day and do falling goodies for like a minute, and then put him away. And then some other time during the day, I would do behavior chain, right? And I will do that. And that's basically because I get bored easily. So that just keeps me entertained. But at times when I'm facing a behavior problem, like I have a hard time teaching Senshin the bow to a stand, I actually focus on that game for the entire week. And that's the only thing I practice. So I mean, having a hard time teaching something in particular, I will choose only one thing for sure. But there's no formula for that kind of stuff. You can teach them all. You can do one at a time. It's just, there's only one thing I will pay a lot of attention to, and that's having fun. The more fun you have with your dog, the easier it's gonna be. Like seriously, it's like you can leave all the stress and everything else behind and just have a good relationship with your dog and have fun. That's the key, for sure. Mm-hmm. Sheila, question?
So Roxy, we've discovered, is quite the digger. So how can we change, like add value, like so that she's not digging the yard up? What would we do to, like, how could we do like an add value kind of thing?
I would totally recommend getting a kiddie pool. And then having like putting stuff in the kiddie pool, like sand or anything like that you want to collect. I even got to the point where I buy a kiddie pool, I put a backpack on my dog, I walk to the river, I fill the backpack with Ziploc bags of sand, we go back home, we pour the sand on the kiddie pool. And every day we back and forth, we bring sand to the pool. And now my dog is doing a job, he has a purpose, and he's even more excited because she knows where it came from. And then what I do is I then let her dig in that area, and I had treats in there, and I just put it on the command, dig. Yeah, and I have fun with that, for sure. Now, in regards to actually stopping her from digging in inappropriate places, first put poop every hole she's dug, like dog poop, and bury it. They won't dig there again. So that's like the first step, prevention, okay? And then the second step is, let's say she's digging, you say, Roxy, she looks at you, yes, toss a treat, play a game, play tug of war, roll around with her, like lots of value for having listened to you. So now when you're talking about a behavior problem like digging, counter surfing, like a lot of those kind of things, the best solution is management first. Like prevent the dog from doing it, give them an outlet to it. Now, expressions versus suppression. So what that means is if you're gonna tell them not to do it somewhere, but they really like it, you gotta give them an alternative of doing it. So that's why I say a kiddie pool is so nice. And they're really cheap right now because the spring is not here. So it's totally worth it to go get them now. Right? So that's what I would suggest. And then I will totally make my dog work for it. Like just you bring your own sand. So you don't have, I done that. I had dogs that had like so terrible at just like putting the nose on the ground all day long. So I put a backpack. I had this one beagle and I put a backpack on her, and every day we would collect rocks from the river. And then we had a garden and we would put all the rocks. And then all the dogs will spend so long sniffing each rock that we brought back. And we had patterns because I collected different like color rocks. It's so much fun. And it's like you're doing something with your dog. And you know, by the end of it, my dog was coming to me and standing still so I can load the backpack. It was so funny. You know, so
You have to be pretty
cool.
careful about how much weight, like, you know, like how much weight your dog can carry. I guess you just have to gauge
Well,
that accordingly
most
or whatever.
Yeah, the most important thing is not to overwhelm the dog at the beginning, is to do some backpack training first. And the second thing is that you will notice if your dog is uncomfortable with the weight. Like definitely you have to be careful, definitely. But you can tell, like when the dog is uncomfortable, you're like, oh, that's too much. Take a few rocks up. Oh, that's perfect. They're like calm, right? So you gotta, like, I mean, I used to put on Maggie, I used to put maybe 3 rocks per side, and they were like about that big, right? She was so proud walking with her backpack, you know? So like, you know, things like that. But yeah, but you have to be creative a little bit, and we can talk more about digging later on, things like that. But very common with some dogs that haven't come from like breeders and things like that. They're street dogs. They dig to bury like valuable things so they can take them after. That's why you gotta put poop. It works really well, and you're not wasting the doggy bags and send them to the landfill. Anybody has any questions left?
Valley,
Hi, Beb.
who's having puppies when?
Keiko, I'm not sure when.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
Avery has Keiko right now. She's fostering her for a little bit. Where is the little girl? Can we see her?
Keiko, come here.
Keiko, where are you?
I'll shake.
Keiko,
Oh,
Keiko, Keiko,
oh, here she
Keiko,
is.
Keiko. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Yeah, so she's preparing because she may have to travel and be alone without us
Oh,
to be bred. So she's kind of going from place to place. Like people are taking care of her so she can get used to not being around us. Just making sure, you know, we don't want a pregnant mama to be stressed out.
no.
Yes. Good girl, Keiko. Good girl, Keiko. Good girl, Keiko. Yeah, so cute. Yeah, all right, guys. So awesome. Send your videos if you want. Spread the word, tell people about the channel, invite people, let us know if you have any questions, if you want particular subjects covered, and go help people.
Thank you so
guys.
much, Valley.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Valerie.
night.
Good night.
Night.